rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I appreciate you joining us today. You're going to like this particular podcast. Anyone that respects order, tradition, ritual, you know, the things that bind people together, nations together, you're going to love this podcast. We're going to be speaking to Sophie Corcoran, and she's a political commentator in the UK. But first, before we do, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are found. You can go to thecarljacksonshow.com to make it easy, SalemPodcastNetwork.com as well, or subscribe to or on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you find them. If you subscribe to YouTube and Rumble, please like and share the videos, rate and review them as well. That really helps. Also, everywhere that I am on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. The Carl Jackson Show. Don't forget to put the word "the" in front. It'll be much easier to find me. And also, as always, I want to give props to Mike Lindell and My Pillow. Mike Lindell has built a fabulous company, an American company, American manufacturing, American-made products, and he does have a special deal for you, for my listening audience. If you're looking for the Giza Dream Sheets, if you're looking for the Percale bed sheets, for example, the queen size normally sells for $39.90 or $89.98. I'm sorry, with my promo code using the word Carl, you can get them for $89.98. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com. Click on the radio listener square. That's mypillow.com. Click on the radio listener square or give them a call, 1-800-858-0263. Use the promo code Carl and, you know, get yourself some nice bed sheets for the holiday season coming up. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of that good stuff. Anyway, we appreciate you watching the Carl Jackson Show. We're going to get started here with Sophie. I'm really looking forward to this interview. We have Sophie Corcoran on. She's I guess are you considered a community activist in the UK, Sophie, or a commentator? What would you describe yourself as?
I would describe myself as a political commentator, I would say.
Okay. All right. I watched some of your clips on the news in the UK. You're pretty exciting, fascinating. You're blunt and straight to the point. I absolutely love it. You stirred some controversy and it went viral out here. Your video did. By the way, everybody subscribe to the podcast, thecarljacksonshow.com, SalemPodcastNetwork.com, and follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. You can follow Sophie on Twitter at Sophie, Sophie, Lewis, Louissecc. This is going to be, I've been looking forward to this all week, Sophie, because Queen Elizabeth died. You stirred some controversy. There were headlines that says, I'm reading one here, young Brit slams U.S. leftists mocking mourning of the Queen. And you said, hey, you guys mourned George Floyd. That grabbed my attention right away. I'm a conservative. You're a conservative out in the UK. What got you so riled up to make you come out and say that?
Well, over even the immediate aftermath of the Queen's passing, who is incredibly important to people here in the UK, we had these academics in the US, these woke academics in the US, trash our Queen. I remember one of them said something about, I wish she has an excruciating death.
Oh, yes.
Along the lines of that. And we had a lot of them, calling for reparations, mocking us for respecting our Queen. And ultimately, our Queen is somebody who is incredibly important to the people of the UK. She has served here for 70 years, 15 prime ministers, wars, pandemics, everything. You name it, she has been here. She's given our country so much in terms of, she was basically a comfort blanket for us when times are hard. She's made us billions of pounds in tourism. And she's been a real icon for the UK. And of course, we will mourn somebody who is extremely important to us and such a massive loss here in the UK. And you guys mourn somebody that put a gun to a pregnant woman. You burnt down cities and pretended this was a hero. So listen, we're not in a comparison. Let's compare our Queen to your president. Our Queen was 96 years old, and 2 days before she died, she was working. She looked brilliant. She ensured a peaceful transition of power, which is the most important job of a constitutional monarch. And it was 2 days before she passed away at the age of 96. That is incredible. Your current president can't even walk up the stairs or finish So if we're going to compare the two, I think we're winning here with our queen.
Listen, you you will not get any argument from me on that one, Sophie. I hate to say it. Our current president, in my opinion, is a complete and utter embarrassment. The reason why the headline stuck out to me is you're right. So many of the leftists out of talking about the Queen dying a painful, excruciating death. The lady was just void of sadly void of the facts, void of history. But that's what's occurring in a lot of academia in the United States of America right now. It's absolutely astonishing to me. You just mentioned one factor here, Sophie, that I hadn't even considered, but how much money the Queen brought in for the UK given tourism. That's something that I'll be honest with you. I've always kind of admired the Queen from afar. Obviously, an American. I'm not into the monarch, but I understand why you guys would be, and it's something that I would respect because of the some of the things, the ritual, the order, the tradition. I got to be honest with you. It fascinates me that someone as young as you has such amazing feelings for the Queen. Is that something that's in general across the U.S., even with younger people like yourself?
Well, in the UK, I think it was
The UK, I'm sorry.
24 million people alone just in the UK, and we're a tiny place, tuned in to watch the Queen's funeral. Around 4 billion people at least in the world. I think it was actually more, the official numbers haven't come out, but that was the sort of lower estimate of what it would be, tuned in to watch the Queen's funeral. So this idea that the monarch is something that is not respected is a complete load of rubbish. She is literally adored around the world by Brits, all Brits, young people. If you went to see the Queen, the queue for the Queen's lying in state, people were queuing up for 24 hours just to go and walk past her coffin for 30 seconds. That's how much she meant to the people of the UK. And it wasn't just, your old straight white man. We had, people of colour, we had young people, old people, everyone. She is such a united figure for everyone in Britain. And a lot of these academics that are spouting nonsense from abroad. One, stop pretending you're Irish just because your great granddad was Irish. You are not Irish. Let me just put that to you. My father is Irish, and even I don't claim to be Irish. And secondly, they're so uneducated. They say she's a colonizer. Well, if you actually did your bloody research about the Queen, you'd understand that she oversaw the majority of decolonisation. So there's that.
I'm glad that you I'm glad that you mentioned that. What was the overall? I read a stat here. Tell me if this is true. If you know this, I just read this today. 4 out of 5 UK residents weren't alive when she ascended to the throne. If that's true, I mean 80% of UK residents, all they've known for their entire life is Queen Elizabeth on the throne. Does that sound?
That's true. I mean, she reigned for over 70 years. There are very few people that would have seen another monarch, and there are people who would have died, were born and died within those 70 years, that would have only ever seen one monarch. And now, if we think of it, the Queen has reigned for 70 years. We are never going to see a reign like that again in our lifetimes, because we've got Charles is 70, so he's going to maybe last 15 to 20 years. Then William, by the time he ascends to the throne, is going to be in his 60s or his late 50s. We're never going to see, and this was the longest serving monarch in British history, and in actual fact, one of the longest serving monarchs in the world.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating when you think about it. What did the mood feel like that day, the day of Queen Elizabeth's funeral? I was literally, I watched some of your live tweets that day, so I knew you were extremely busy that day. But what was the mood around the country, or what you sensed or what you saw that day?
Well, there was a real sense of loss, and we felt that with Princess Diana. Obviously, the Queen, she was 96. It was expected, but for some reason, we all kind of just thought that she would live forever. I don't know. It was a really weird thing, but a lot of British people felt it. A lot of us couldn't envision our country without the Queen. But it was just a great day it was just pure British. It was Christian. It was British. It was brilliant. It's what we do. There is nobody that does it better than the British, and that is something I will confidently say. Nobody does pomp, tradition, quite like we do.
Yeah, you know what? And I think there's something. I think there's something to be said about that, Sophie. I really do. I again, I'm an American. I'm not one for the monarchy, but I really do admire the tradition. And when I just saw the outpouring for the Queen, and again, I'm just looking from afar, and I'm like, man, there's something to be said about order, ritual, tradition that is really special. It's something that a bunch of the leftists inside of America are trying to get rid of, which absolutely drives me nuts and insane. But there's something to be said about that. As a young woman, can you tell me specifically how perhaps the Queen maybe shaped women out there? Does that make sense?
Well, if we just look at what the Queen did, one of my favourite memories of Queen Elizabeth was when she had the Saudi king, the Saudi prince, and drove him around the estate in her car at a time where in Saudi Arabia women weren't allowed to drive. And she also got rid of, there is something in the monarchy where previously, before Queen Elizabeth, if females were born first but a male was born second, the male would automatically leapfrog the female because males come first in the line of succession over females. Right. She stopped that. So, for example, Princess Charlotte has a younger brother called Louis. She gets to retain her position in the line of succession instead of Louis taking it over. Previously, what would have happened is Louis would have been on top of Princess Charlotte because she's a girl, but Queen Elizabeth stopped that, and that was something that occurred for thousands of years, and Queen Elizabeth said no.
Man, that is
Leave
so
the
fascinating. I mean, this is fascinating stuff. I really enjoy learning. Again, I've watched from afar. I've always respected her from afar. I've never heard anyone, to be frank with you, speak a bad word about her until her passing, and it was nasty. Obviously, this is something that conservatives are enduring with our own president right now, and those that are on the left within the United States. I don't think we've ever seen such nastiness. At least I haven't in my lifetime. That exists where the harshness of the things that people say on the Democratic side here in the United States now is pretty unbelievable. They accuse us of being these nasty current president inside of the White House. I do want to ask you this, Sophie. How do you think King Charles, now King Charles III, he takes over? How do you think the monarchy will survive with him at the helm? Do you expect it to take a hit? Do you expect it to thrive? What do you expect to see?
No, I actually think the death of Queen Elizabeth has proven there's been a lot of questions within the recent years of whether we want a monarchy, and the death of Queen Elizabeth have proved that we most definitely do.
Okay.
And I think Charles, there was a lot of people concerned about Charles, but Charles has really just proved himself in the last week. You know, he has become a completely different person to what he was when he was Prince. I mean, this is something he's been preparing his entire life for, and has had to wait immeasurably long because obviously his mother lasted so long. I think the British people, there's a renewed faith in Britishness, there's a renewed faith in the monarchy, there's a renewed faith in patriotism and tradition, and I think this has been wonderful. We for a country, ever since the 2016 referendum, the Brexit referendum, we've been so divided. The media have done everything they can to divide people into groups. You're a Remainer, you're a Leaver, you're a Tory, you're anti-lockdown, you're pro-lockdown. Everything is just divisive. But this has brought everybody together and realised, you know, I may be a Remainer, or I may be a Leaver, I may be this, but at the core of all of that, I'm British, and so are you, and so are you, and that's something that can bring us all together.
I think that's a powerful statement you just said there, Sophie. You know, another thing that I read some of the transcript of the actual messages at the funeral, and it was deeply religious. And I got to be honest with you, I wasn't surprised that the Queen was deeply religious, but I really admired the things that were happening, the words that were said at her funeral that were so deeply religious and biblical, if you will. Do you in Britain because of the Queen?
Yes, and the Church of England is a really important part. And, well, of course, we'll always respect different religions. We are a Christian country, and we'll always
Sure.
be a Christian country. It was just so beautiful, you know, that we were able to, for a long time, just in society as a whole, not just in Britain, but in the world as a whole, Christianity has been almost like a dirty word. You don't want to be a Christian. It's bad to be a Christian. It's not woke to be a Christian. But you know, this ceremony was just beautifully Christian. Those words, the hymns, the bagpipe, even the bagpipes.
Right.
It was just phenomenal, and it was so British, so Christian. It's just who we are. It is our identity on show, and I feel like for a
Man.
long time we did start to lose our identity a little bit because of the amount of immigration that we've had, and you know, all of a sudden being proud of your country became a bad thing. Well, I think this has changed it, and hopefully this is going to renew the sense of patriotism that we as Britain have always been known for and what we love. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be patriotic. It's a beautiful thing to love your country and to love your flag and to love who you are. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would hate the country that they're in. That is such a miserable and unhappy life to live. There is something so wonderful about being patriotic. And being patriotic is not being fascist, and that's where the lines have been blurred.
Yes.
But being
It's
patriotic is
part of your
beautiful.
identity.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, it's part of your identity. If God has put you in a place, wherever God has put you, He put you there for a reason. I don't understand why people back away from this. I love the way you put it. Nationalism isn't fascism. It isn't racism. It's part of who you are. So you know the good, the bad, the ugly. You embrace wherever God put you, and you try to be a force for good. It's as simple as that. But it is crazy what we're going through. I know you mentioned basically you guys have got a lot of immigrants that have come through there. The same is true here. Right now, we have a straight up open border. I think it's changing the demographics of the United States. The left seems to want this, and I think it's simply because they want a bunch of useful idiots that'll continue to vote for them. And it's a scary thing. So I think nationalism is important. I don't think it's racist. Again, I don't think it's fascist, but it certainly is important. And I appreciate the way.
And that's what I don't understand with the migrant issue. The people who are wanting us to have open borders are simultaneously hating their country. Well, if this country is so bad, why do you want us to accept everybody? Why do you think so many people will risk their lives to cross the channel to come to this country? They do that because our country is good, because our country is wonderful, because our country is better than the Middle East where they've came from. You know, so our country, so you're similar to saying Britain's so horrible and so hateful. Well, how comes all of these immigrants want to come here? Because if I would happily have one of them trade your place,
Yep.
because they want to be here. You're lucky to be born in Britain. Everybody in Britain is so lucky to be born British. We could have been born anywhere else,
And that's such.
but we were lucky to be born
I feel the
British.
same way about the United States. I mean, I appreciate that you said that. I'm like, obviously people want to come to this country because it is an amazing country. Leave, quite frankly, I'd be happy to replace them the same way that you would with people that appreciate the country, even though I want them to do it legally. But anyway, I appreciate you saying that. All right, let me ask you some questions. Camilla, what role does she play? What influence do you think she might have over King Charles III?
Well, she is what's known as the Queen Consort, and she is probably the most controversial figure in this appointment. I think there was a lot of people that aren't happy that she is the Queen Consort. Obviously, all of the stuff that happened with Princess Diana, that is still
Right.
in people's minds. But when Camilla first came into the royal family, she was hated by everybody. But she has worked incredibly hard to redeem herself, and people love Camilla now. I went out in Buckingham Palace and asked people, what do you think about Camilla being queen? And they said yes, because she is one of the most hardworking royals. She is one of the royals that are most committed to the British people and the British monarchy. And she was hated, but she proved herself. She's proved herself time and time again. So I think a lot of us are really happy with Camilla.
Wow, that's interesting. That now I've got to turn to someone that I can't stand, and I almost hate to ask you about this, but well, a couple, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Is there a different feeling for Prince Harry as opposed to Meghan Markle? And I'll just say it out front. many of us out here think Meghan Markle is a complete, utter fraud and narcissist. But I want to I want to understand it from your point of view and from the UK's point of view. What is your take on Prince Harry? What is your take on Meghan Markle? What is your take on them as a couple?
We don't like either of them, and I'd happily see them go back to California and never come back. You know, with Meghan Markle, and they're going to play the victim. Listen, the reason why the British press don't like Meghan Markle has got nothing to do with her race. It's because she is a liar, because she is a narcissist, and because she is not a good person, and she's trashed our country and our royal family. If she trashes us in the press every week, why on earth does she think that we're going to like her? And when the Queen's husband was dying, she was dragging the royal family through the mud. As soon as he died, she did the same thing. Up until just a week before Her Majesty's own death, she was causing her so much pain. And I reckon a large part of Her Majesty's downturn in her health was as a result of the stress that Meghan Markle and Harry were causing the royal family.
Wow. You know what? I wouldn't, a long and amazing life. I got to be honest with you. I was taken aback too that, and then all of a sudden she passed. And I'm like, what the, I mean, 96 is a freaking long life. All right. But I felt the same way. It's like I expected her to almost outlive Charles the way that it was going. But I knew Meghan Markle was a fraud, Sophie, and I want to get your response to this. Something that she said, or I read a transcript of, because I couldn't believe she said it. But she said that she didn't know, I guess, that Prince Harry at the time was a prince. And she wanted to date a prince or something like that. She dreamed of that as a little girl. It was something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like, this chick is nuts.
Of course she knew, and she lied about the royal family. She said that her children weren't entitled to titles because of racism. No, they weren't entitled to them because the laws and the constitution of the British monarchy and how the succession works, they would be entitled to those titles when the Queen passed away, which she did, and they got those titles.
Man.
Of Prince and It was nothing to do with racism. She just doesn't know anything about the royal family, and that's her own fault because she knew what she was getting into. She should have researched what she was getting into. It's the royal family. It's not your normal family. She knew that. To pretend that she didn't is complete rubbish.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Sophie, I don't think I'd give her enough credit to say that obtain titles. I would imagine Prince Harry would have told her revealed that to her.
And then now they're angry because their children are not going to be called His Royal Highness or Her Royal Highness. They still get to be called Prince and Princess, but not HRHs. And that's because they're not working royals. Well, they knew that when they were leaving because they themselves don't have those titles. So why they expect their children to be able to when they themselves are not working royals and their children are not working royals? You're not entitled to a title unless you do the role. And she expects them to be given the title without doing the role. And that's not how we work in Britain.
Let me ask you this, Sophie. What the heck happened to Prince Harry? I mean, I guess hearing media here in the United States, he seemed to be very loyal to the crown, very loyal to his family, and he married Meghan Markle, and he seemed to go to go crazy. Is that the sense, or is that what people understand in the UK, or did you guys see any of this before he married Meghan Markle?
No. Prince Harry was the most popular member of the royal family. Now he's the least popular. But I think Meghan Markle is manipulating him. Prince Harry obviously lost his mother when he was really young to the press, and I know for a fact that Meghan Markle is using that and saying, you know, the British press hate me, that's why we got away, we don't want to get our kids to do this. They said that they would never be able to walk their kids to school without being paparazzi'd. Not true, because we have laws that protect against that in the UK, and they don't do it to George, who is going to be a king, so nobody cares about Meghan's kids. He's using Harry's almost hatred for the paparazzi because of what happened to his mother as a way of manipulating him and exploiting him, and that is so foul. She is using his trauma to exploit him and manipulate him, and I understand why Harry feels like that way. He's going to be told that he's going to be hounded out by the press, and his kids are going to be hounded out by the press in the same way that his mother did. I understand why behave that way, but she's the one that's using that, and she's the one that's manipulating them, and they're all liars. We have laws that protect against photographing kids. That's why you'll never see any unsolicited pictures of Princess Charlotte or Princess George being released, because it's illegal here, and she knows that.
Man, That's it's fascinating to hear your take. Give us your take in the UK sense on them. I mean, King Charles is obviously more popular, and Catherine are waiting in the wing. Give us your take on the UK's take, if you will, on them.
They're our favourite members of the royal family.
Really?
They're such a beautiful family. We cannot wait for King William. He's going to have Charles. I don't think is going to live up quite to the same way that the Queen did, but I think William could in terms of popularity.
Wow.
I think Charles is sort of just a caretaker monarch.
Okay.
Until William. I think William's going to be phenomenal. I'm really excited about it.
So you guys are
forward to William when his time comes.
Okay. It seemed to me, at least from afar, that when you look at them as a couple, they embody the ritual, they embody the order, they embody the tradition. They know what their jobs and all that kind of stuff, are. They get it. At least it seems that way to us. So I guess I could understand why you guys would feel that way. I am, I guess, pleasantly surprised to understand that at least King Charles, King Charles III, for the time being, has gathered fondness from the UK people. I'm a little surprised about that, but I'm glad to hear it. And hearing you say how hard Camilla has worked, it feels a little odd to me because, and I'm an American, and I'm like, all the things that we loved Princess Di out here. Many of us did, based upon what we heard, right in the media. So it kind of felt weird even here, like, really, Camilla gets to, but it's fascinating to hear your take on this stuff.
She's one of the most popular and one of the most well respected, which is good. It's just a testament to her hard work.
That's good. That's good. I really do like that. Lastly, Prince Andrew. How does society in the UK look at him at this point?
And we hate him. We don't like him. We don't want him to be viewed as a prince. But the one thing that always winds me up is everybody collectively despises Prince Andrew. And people say, you can't criticise Meghan Markle because you have Prince Andrew. No. We can criticise both.
I love it. Listen, I appreciate how bold you are. Are there a lot of Brits that are as bold as you are? Or are you a complete rarity out there?
I'm quite a rarity. Us Brits are usually quite calm and respectful. I always get myself in trouble in Britain. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm quite hardcore. I'm quite hardcore for a Brit, especially a young Brit. But there are some like me. But I just like to tell it how it is. I don't mince my words. Us Brits, we don't like to lie. We like to be respectful, but we don't like to lie.
Man, I love that. You got into some trouble recently, I shouldn't say trouble, but you've stood up for Israel too. That's I mean, I respect that. I love the nation of Israel. I'm a Christian. I believe that we should defend and stand up for the people of Israel, but that's not so common out there. Is that correct?
No, especially amongst young people, they absolutely love Palestine. And one of my favourite signs I've ever seen at university campus was, and I quote, "Queers for Palestine." And I was like, take that sign to Palestine and see what happens.
Exactly.
Turkey's voting for Christmas. But in terms of Israel, it's the only democracy in the Middle East. It's one of the only places where gay people aren't going to be imprisoned or killed, where women are treated as not as second-class citizens, where they have rights. It's a beautiful country, and the Muslim religion occupies most of the Middle East. So why can't Israel have their thing? They call it apartheid. They say it's apartheid. That's complete rubbish because there are more Muslims living in the state of Israel than there are Jews living in the entirety of the rest of the Middle East. So that's not apartheid. The people that are doing apartheid are not the Jewish ones. And
good stuff.
It's nonsense. Absolutely nonsense.
All right. Well, listen, Sophie, I so appreciate interviewing you. I hope you, when things break as far as British news, I hope that we can get you back to get your take and your opinions on it. I absolutely loved having you on. And I know that we missed an interview with you earlier in the week. And I told my producer, I'm like, if I'm Sophie, all I'm doing all day long, I completely understand, is focusing on the funeral of the Queen. And I think that was important. And I got to tell you, I didn't mind that at all. I expected it. And I even started looking at your Twitter. I was like, yeah, she's doing exactly what I would be doing.
It's the craziest day of my life, I think. Being so young, it's a lot of pressure to sort of break that. I'm so new into media as well. So I never imagined this early in my career I would have to do something of the magnitude of this. But I'm really grateful for it.
Oh, man. Well, listen, you've been a pleasure. And I look forward to having you back on someday. And keep up the fight. Keep doing what you're doing. I think British nationalism is important. You guys are a great ally, and I think you should be proud of your country. And I think you should be proud of the origins. I think you should be proud of the ritual, the tradition, and God placed you there for a reason. And I believe you're standing up for the right thing. So God bless you for what you're doing, and just keep at it. Keep at it, please.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show. Again, please don't forget to follow me on all social media, The Carl Jackson Show. That's everywhere: Twitter, Getter, True Social, Facebook, you name it, The Carl Jackson Show. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are found. SalemPodcastNetwork.com, TheCarlJacksonShow.com. And also, please support MyPillow, Mike Lindell, a patriot at MyPillow.com. Take advantage of the sale on the Percale bed sheets, the Giza Dream sheets, but also my promo code using my name, Carl, applies to everything, every sale applicable on that website. So just go to MyPillow.com, go to the radio listener square, and then type in the name Carl, C-A-R-L, or give them a call, 1-800-858-0263. All right, guys, until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.